Hey guys, welcome back to Herb Husbandry. Today I'm going to be showing you the eggs that my female leopard gecko Lenetta just laid. I'm going to be putting them into the egg boxes that I will show you how to make, and then I'll be candling them and putting them into the incubator where they will stay for approximately 39 days before hopefully they'll hatch into beautiful little baby geckos. Okay, so the first thing we're going to have to do is get the egg boxes ready. So if you look here, I actually have two egg boxes. These are just deli cups from Walmart.com, and they will work well for gecko egg incubation. These are, I think, 12-ounce containers. I think they were $12 for 20 of them, so they're relatively inexpensive, and they work well. So over here I have water and Reptisafe, which is water conditioner, in case you don't know. And I haven't treated this water yet. There's 1.5 cups of water in here. I'm not thinking I'm going to have to use 1.5 cups, but it's good to have 1.5 cups ready, just because you'll also probably need it for the female. Female leopard geckos like to drink lots of water after they lay eggs. So I just put 3 cups of water in here, 3 drops of Reptisafe in there. That's 1 drop for every half cup of water, and now this water is safe to use in a reptile's enclosure. So first thing I'm going to do is take my incubation medium, which this is black gold vermiculite from Value. You can get vermiculite from a lot of different places. Just make sure it's 100% vermiculite. You can't be using things that aren't 100% vermiculite that have like additives in it, because if you do, the additives will actually help facilitate mold growth, which is not good for any type of reptile eggs. They can actually end up killing the eggs. So you're going to want to use plain vermiculite. A lot of people will also use perlite. I've never used perlite, and I've had good results with vermiculite. So this is what I recommend, but perlite will also work, and I know a lot of people like to use that more. So I'm just going to take some of this vermiculite and pour it into each one of my cups here. And I'll actually have to weigh the vermiculite, so the first thing I'm going to do is turn on my scale while the cup is on there, so it shows 0, and then when I take it off, it's minus 0.5 ounces. So now, when I put the vermiculite in here, it will weigh the vermiculite and not the weight of the cup. So I'm going to put that vermiculite in there, and then I will show you how to add the correct amount of water. I just filled the egg cups so that they're about 1/3 of the way full of vermiculite. You don't have to do it about just that much. Some people will do it a little more, a little less, whatever, but I like to just, as a general rule, to just have enough to easily bury the egg halfway in medium, because that's how much you're going to be burying the egg in. So now what I'm going to do is just take the vermiculite and put it on the scale, and see, it still says negative 0.5 ounces, so when I put this on there, it will just read the weight of the vermiculite. So that says 1.1 ounces. So I'm actually going to change the unit to grams. That's 30 grams. So that's a really easy number to work with, just because it's a whole number, no decimals or anything. I like to go for 30 grams of vermiculite just because it's generally a good depth, whatever, and that works well. So what I'm going to do on my calculator here is just punch in 30 and then multiply that by 0.75. A lot of people will do a 1-to-1 ratio of vermiculite to water by volume, not weight. By weight, not volume. But I don't like to do that just because I find that it gets a little too wet. And my first gecko eggs started getting a little too wet when I had them on that water. So I switched my gecko eggs over to this ratio of vermiculite to water, and it worked absolutely fine. So this is how much I recommend for my 4 leopard gecko eggs. I'm not sure about other gecko eggs, but I know for leopard geckos this works well. So I'm just going to hit the enter button. And that's 22.5, and we'll round up to 23 grams of water. So I'm going to hit the tare button, so it says 0, and then I have to go up to 23 grams of water by pouring enough water into here just slowly. So 7, And it doesn't need to be perfect, but 27 grams is a little much, so I'm just going to take a little of the mostly moistened vermiculite. There's some of it that hasn't been mixed in yet, so it's going to be really moist, and just take a little bit of that out. Now it says 26, which I don't really think that's a great. I'd much rather have just gone for 23, but that will work. But in this case, I think I'm going to just add a little bit more vermiculite to it. Just make it a little drier, just a small handful of vermiculite in there. And obviously the thing says it's higher, but that's just because it's also reading the weight of the vermiculite. So I like to just, you know, eyeball it. A little over or a little less is not going to be a big deal. But so I'm just going to now close up my egg container here, and then I'm going to shake it to mix around the vermiculite. Just shake it violently several times. Just get it thoroughly mixed in, swirl it a little, shake it again, up and down, left and right. Just swirl it, shake it, whatever, to get it really thoroughly mixed in. And then when I open it, it's going to be a nice, texture for laying, for egg laying, nice moisture level, all that. So just take that off now. It's kind of hard to take it off with one hand, but so if I put my hand in here, it feels moist but not wet, and there are still a couple clumps that I didn't shake it well enough to get out, but I just squeeze those clumps till they break, and then it's good. And then this vermiculite, see, it's just loosely falling off my hand, but then if I squeeze it, it will hold a clump, just barely. If I put any more pressure on it in a way to sort of break it, it will break easily. And if I take a piece of completely dry vermiculite and try to squeeze it, I'm going to put it over here because I know what's going to happen. If I let go, it'll just completely crumble off. So this is moist but not wet, and that's exactly what we're going for here. So I'm just going to do the same thing again on my other egg container, and then we will put the eggs in. Okay, so this is the female that I've been breeding this year, and just if you look at her, she is definitely considerably thinner than she was when she was gravid. And then if I raise up the back side of her, you don't see any eggs in there, which it's kind of hard to tell if it's kind of hard to see any difference if you don't know what she looked like before. But before, she had 2 large eggs in there, or actually, oh, so she has 2 more ovulations that are in there that are going to be turning into eggs, it looks like. And she, although one of them is a little big, so it might actually be the other egg. She may not have laid that one yet, but I don't think that's the case. We'll have to see if she laid both of her 2 eggs. In that case, she actually has 4 eggs, or 3 or 4 eggs, because I know that there's at least 1 in her lay box, and it looks like she has at least 2 in here that are just very small. So I'm guessing she just has 2 more that are forming. Those 2 that are forming are actually going to be her 4th clutch for this single pairing. So I'm guessing those ones are going to be infertile. But so yeah, she looks a lot thinner, and then if you look at her, she definitely doesn't have any eggs inside of her, and then, or at least big ones. And then if you look, she's also just this way. She's a lot flatter. So that's a good way to tell that she is not gravid anymore. And if you check her and she's not gravid, then you have to check the entire enclosure until you find the eggs. If you check her and she's definitely still gravid, then of course you don't need to check the entire enclosure. So now let's go and get the eggs. So that red Tupperware container is the lay box that her eggs are in. You can see her tail still. She was just put back in there. So I'm just going to move her daytime light so it's on the side where you can see a little better, and then move the screen a little more to the side so you can see it, so I can have a little more easy access to it. I'm just going to take out the entire lay box, and if you look, all of that vermiculite has been thrown onto one side of the enclosure, which is a good sign that she has laid the eggs. And if you look, of course she has laid an egg, because you can see a little bit of white right there, and that is the egg. So I'm going to open up this Tupperware container, I just set it on top of the screen lid because, I mean, it's not an issue. Take off the lid, just toss that aside. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to gently brush away the vermiculite until I come to the eggs. So there's one egg. It's hard to tell right now, but that looks like it's good, and then there's the other. Okay, so now that I've found both eggs, and I'm just going to continue brushing a little more vermiculite away from them. Now that I've found both of them, I'm going to take them out of this lay box and put them into their egg boxes that they're going to be in the incubator in. Those were what we made just a few minutes ago. So right here is one of the incubation boxes, and I'm just going to set it down over here next to the other one. And I'm just going to make a finger size. Well, I'm just going to continue mixing it a little better here first because it is a little, does need a little better mixed. There were a couple wetter clumps, so I'm just going to shake it so that it's the same, this level, and then I'm just going to use my finger and just take out a little bit of substrate, and it's going to be perfect for putting an egg in. Same thing over here. So they're just about the same size as a leopard gecko egg. I'm just going to start over on this one because that one wasn't really in the center. Okay, so both of these are ready to put a gecko egg in. So I'm just going to take out this one first, and I'm going to move the lay box so it's going to be over here, I guess. It's kind of awkward here to do it on camera, but I'm just going to finish removing the vermiculite from around this one egg, and then I'm just going to take the egg out and put it into the lay box. I mean the egg box. So this one's in there. I did forget to mark it, so I'm going to grab my Sharpie real quick and just mark the eggs before I do anything else with them to make sure I don't roll them. Alright, I'm back with the Sharpie. I'm just going to mark the top of the egg so that if it gets turned during incubation, or if I'm not sure which way is up on it, I can just refer to the mark. That's because 6 hours after being laid, which I don't think these eggs have been laid 6 hours ago, but I may be mistaken. 6 hours after being laid, the embryo gets stuck on one position, and if it moves, if it gets turned, it will actually drown, and of course then there's no baby. So you gotta make sure you don't turn the eggs after 6 hours, and just try not to turn them at all because it's just a good practice not to turn them regardless of how old they are. I'm just going to take the other egg, put this one in the other egg box, and now all I'm going to do is just like move a little bit of the vermiculite around the egg so the egg's buried most of the way in vermiculite. That's going to help it keep a nice moist medium around it, so it's going to constantly have moisture but not be super wet. That's what the vermiculite does. It absorbs water and then releases it very slowly during the incubation process. Same thing with the other egg. Just bury that in vermiculite most of the way. And then I'm actually going to dig them out in just a second here to candle them, but I just wanted to show you how they go in the egg box. So here's my flashlight. I just put in fresh batteries, so it should be nice and bright and easy to see. So right now, if you look, it has an yellow glow to it, which on an older egg, that means it's definitely infertile. But on a younger egg, they just naturally have this this yellow glow, which you can barely see. But it has a bright yellowish glow. Here, that's better. It has a bright yellow glow. Which means usually on an older egg, like I said, that it's infertile, but on a younger egg, they only develop that later on. So these may or may not be fertile. Their only real way to find out is to hold them and look for a ring of life, which never really comes up on a camera, at least one of my cameras. So I'm going to just candle them real quick and report back to you if they look fertile or not, because it won't show up on the camera. So I just candled them, and both eggs appear to be fertile. It's kind of hard to tell at this stage because the ring of life is a little small. It'll be easier to tell when they're a little older. But for now, it definitely looks like they are alive and definitely will be incubated. So I'm just going to take the lids that I have, put them on the egg boxes, and I'm not going to snap them on right now because I only have one hand, because of all the, I only have one hand because of the camera, but I'm just going to take my Sharpie here and write the mother, who was Lenetta, and the father, who is another gecko named Scales. And then the date that they were laid, which is, they were definitely only laid today because I checked yesterday and there were no eggs. And this is May 1st, so I'm going to put 5/1/22, and then the estimated hatch date is going to be June 9th. At the temperature I'm incubating them at, they should hatch in 39 days, which will be June 9th. So I'm just going to copy the information onto here, and then snap on the lids and put them in the incubator. So the information is now on both of the egg boxes, and they're now going to be put inside the incubator. So these two are the new ones, and then this one I already had in here. This one should hatch in about a month here. The estimated hatch date I put on there is May 28th. But then my other egg hatched after 39 days. This, I thought it was going to take 45 days, but it only took 39. So that's actually inaccurate right there. It should be May 24th, but that's still about 3.5 weeks. So I'm close enough to a month. So they're all in my incubator. I'm just going to put them closer to the viewing window so I can see them a little better. And now I'm just going to shut up the incubator, and in about 39 days they should hatch and they should be males. So yeah, that is me finding the eggs and putting them into their egg boxes and then into the incubator. So now that the eggs are in the incubator, they'll stay in there for about 39 days, like I said. And then after about 2 weeks, they'll start having more veins in them, and they'll definitely have a big pinkish glow after about a week. So if they're alive, if they're dead, they'll mold. That's usually the first sign that they're dead. They're not always dead if they mold, but if they are dead, it will usually mold. So they'll mold, start to leak, stink. Those are all major signs that it's dead. If it stinks, it's definitely dead. Leaking is also not a good sign. But if it's alive, it will continue to grow. In fact, since these eggs are soft-shelled eggs, they will actually continue to grow during incubation until they are they're actually going to get about 1.5 times the size around wide as they are now, but before they start getting a little smaller, and then they will hatch into little baby geckos. Near the end of the incubation, there will be a dark shadow, and it'll be confusing if you try to candle the egg, because the dark shadow will seem to be everywhere where you're not candling the egg, and that's because it actually is. When you're candling it, when you see the veins when you're candling it near the end, you're seeing the gecko. Seeing the gecko's veins. You can shine it through the gecko's skin and see all the veins. And then on the other side is where the light couldn't reach because it's not bright enough. So the gecko's going to be covering up most of the space of the egg, and that's why you'll be able to see a dark shape no matter where you're putting the flashlight from. And then after 39 days, it will hatch into a gecko that will, after 3 days, go through its first shed and then start eating small crickets or mealworms. And then eventually grow up into an adult gecko. So yeah, that's how this is going to work. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that notifications button, subscribe button, like this video, and check out my website at herphusbandry.weebly.com. I'll put a link to that in the description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.